over to the East Village.
The East Village.
Yeah, and we visit with Allen Ginsberg
Oh.
and William Burroughs, Jack Kerouac, the Beat Generation.
Yeah.
Allen lived in the area for decades.
Right.
In many different houses. The house that we picked was 206 East 7th Street.
Okay.
And
yeah.
that's where Burroughs and Ginsberg lived together for a time. And there's...
Didn't you say Jack Kerouac lived there as well?
Yes, he did, but for, as far as I could tell, a shorter duration.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he wrote one of his books, The Subterraneans, there or not. It's covered in this really great walking tour that we should call out. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's this really cool walking tour that is an East Village poetry walk called Passing a Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Passing Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at some notes here. And it was made by someone named Pike Malinowski,
mm-hmm.
and in collaboration with WNYC. And it's like an hour-and-a-half audio tour to follow along 2 miles. So you spend a lot of time, if you were to follow it as it's made, you would spend a lot of time sort of like stopping and paying attention, and it guides you in which way to walk and then tells you about all sorts of history from just that small little area.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful to listen to. We were walking a little bit faster than what the prescribed time was, so we both just listened to it kind of separate of walking around that area.
Right. I'd kind of like to do it again at some point.
Well, it's funny because it also calls to go inside buildings and check things out, which is obviously
right now is just
not pandemic compliant.
No.
But it was really a great experience for being able to place both locations, but also how different styles of poetry were interacting at that time. There's the Beat Generation, and then the New York School, and then the second generation New York School, which is like the Tulsa Gang, and all sorts of stuff like that, as well as authors, poets, artists that existed outside of that era. The Walt Whitmans, the E.E. Cummings, the W.H. Audens of the world, and bringing it all together in a way with select poems that really, they did a great job selecting poems that were engaging and illustrative of the atmosphere of the neighborhood.
Yeah. I think even just separating it out into the different groups of people, it was maybe the first time I've heard all of that sort of talked about at once. And I think when I hear about poetry from the East Village specifically, I always just think about the beats and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I'm always confused when there's some poems from that area and time frame that I really like, and then some poems in writing that I just can't even read 2 words that I'm just you with the book, just falling asleep. And it made a lot more sense to me to hear about it in those terms, where there were all these different groups of people working in different ways, and some of them, I don't think I knew about the New York School of Poets. I don't think I knew that was a specific group, and that they approached it with a lot of humor. I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's the type of poetry I like too. I often am I don't really like poetry, but I do like poetry when it's funny.
Yeah.
And kind of silly.
Yeah. Yeah, and the surrealist angle as well. And it was great to hear it all performed.
Yeah.
And there is, the Beat Generation is definitely something that has had so much written, spoken about. I'm not going to talk anymore about it here.
Yeah.
But the New York School, which had Frank O'Hara as one of the main people, who was the curator at MoMA, I believe. I hope I'm right on that. But he died tragically fairly early, and
Oh.
it makes you wonder. He was only like 40 years old, I think, and you know, Ginsberg was the champion of the beat authors.
Mhm.
Like he sent out manuscripts for all of his friends, and kind of created this community as a
Right.
consequence. And I wonder how much. I mean, how much having one of the New York schools own cut down so early
Mm.
hurt, in addition to the beat generation just being inherently um, like drugs and like kind of degeneracy was like a part of it too, that
Yeah,
attracted people in a
it's
different
so
way.
romanticized
Yeah,
and
I don't know. I mean, there's way more that could be probably unpacked about the whole thing, but it was great to have this walk as like an opportunity to kind of spur my interest. And
yeah. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, like I said, I feel like I never really thought of it all like that. I kind of just grouped like poetry from that time all
yeah,
into one. And I'm excited to learn more about it and like listen and read more of that group's
yeah.
poems too.
There was a fantastic poem midway through from one of the Puerto Rican poets in the area, which is another
Mm.
thing that the podcast episode did, if you want to call it that, did a great job of exploring, where it was based on an actual event, or I guess the poem inspired the actual funeral procession of scattering the ashes on the Lower East Side, and it was
Mm-hmm.
performed beautifully in the
Yeah.
episode, and it was yeah, just very very illustrative of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, I listened to it and then I said to Mike, like, do you think that you could still scatter ashes on the like it was really it was like this poet had written the poem that was essentially like writing your last will and testament or like your whatever it's called of like this is what I want.
Yeah,
And but it wasn't like an official like it wasn't notarized or anything.
right.
And then yeah, the people that were fans and friends and they took it seriously and they did what was in the poem. So like how could it not be a beautiful funeral procession
Yeah,
when you're following instructions from a poem and not from like a legal document or something?
right.
But I do wonder if you could still do that now. Like
Yeah,
that feels very like I don't know. It feels like you'd get in trouble now.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Depends on what.
Especially with that many people like
Maybe
throwing themselves down into the ashes. Like if that's really yeah, we'll see.
we'll see. We'll see when we do it. Yeah. Also, want to call out that it's narrated for all you film fans out there by Jim Jarmusch. So
Yeah.
that was cool, because I don't know if I've ever spent any length of time listening to him. So that was fun to hear.
Also, I think he pronounces it Jim Jarmusch.
Yeah,
Because I heard that
I
at the beginning
specifically
and
just said Jarmusch because I looked it up several ways to how to pronounce it, because I used to pronounce it Jim Jarmusch.
yeah, same. And I had this experience, which I think is kind of funny, that when I was listening to it and he introduced himself,
Yeah,
I was like, oh, that guy doesn't even know how to say Jim Jarmusch. And then I was like, oh, that is that guy. Like,
yeah.
how frustrating if to be famous and have everyone saying your last name wrong.
Or maybe that's a good thing. Who knows?
Or maybe it's a good thing.
If you know how to
I
pronounce
mean,
it,
we're
if you have
watching
an
it with
opinion,
like
leave it in the
Kamala
comments.
now,
Yeah,
people saying her name wrong all the time.
yeah,
And I think it's a different situation, but also maybe similar in a way.
yeah, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Anyway, we had an opportunity to speak with the producer through email,
Yeah,
which was
yeah,
really great.
we sent out an email just to say that, we found the project, we liked the project and wanted to connect and he responded right away. So yeah, we've gone back and forth a little bit. So thanks if you're listening, Pike. We've loved the support and have enjoyed listening to what you've done. It's been fun to just like connect with people that are doing cool, interesting New York-based projects in this last year while we've been doing this.
Yeah.
And then use what they've made to influence this project. And yeah.
Yeah.
Everything pulls off of everything else.
Yeah.